Hello everyone, I am so excited. My co-author and I are almost done with our next book. This will be the second book that I have co-authored. The fourth-ish book I've written, or with my name on it. And this will be the fifth book in in this series, The Heroes of Ravenford. If you have not read The Heroes of Ravenford, I highly suggest them. It's based off of a D&D campaign. It's lit RPG, basically. It's a very fun series, very colorful characters. And how I became acquainted with F.P. Spirit, the author of this series, how did I become acquainted with him? Oh my goodness. Long story short, met him on a Facebook author group. We both had the same editor. We both wrote our first books about the same time and published them about the same time. And we just both became huge fans of each other's work and started talking, became good friends, and blah blah blah. And so now we are officially co-authors in crime. So today is an excerpt with my character that we kind of inserted into his work, and I've been helping him write and flesh out some of the other female characters in the work, in the books, in the works. Anyway, this is my character in the book, Kaylin, that I created and stuff, and he was brilliant enough to find a way to insert into his world. She is a hoot. We have so much fun writing her and throwing in her bits. So this is a scene, an excerpt from the upcoming book that is almost finished. We are so close. We're going to be sending it to the editor soon, and then within a couple months it should be published. So excited. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so this is a scene, and I will read it to you guys just for fun. And hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to check out the books, I will be sure to put links in the description below. They are called The Heroes of Ravenford. You can find them on Amazon and createspace.com. And you can get them on Kindle or in paperback. Okay, so the scene. Kaylin ran. That's me. Okay, try again. Kaylin ran, tromped through a mud puddle as she and Kaylee Finespun walked from Ravenford Keep toward the Golden Golem. That's an N in the story. Oh wow, I'm messing this up. Anyway, the bubbly strawberry blonde squeaked when some of the mud splashed at her skirts. She shoved Kaylin in the shoulder playfully. "You're such a tomboy." Kaylin giggled, then frowned. "What's a tomboy? Is that a good thing?" Kaylee looked at Kaylin, her brown eyes wide. Then she threw her head back and laughed. A sweet smile graced her lips as she wrapped her arm through Kaylin's and pulled her close. "Kaylin, you're a hoot." "What's so funny?" Kaylin turned to find Zelda Shanarn approaching them. She had met Zelda earlier that day when Andrella took her on a tour of the town. It had been the first time she'd ever seen a half-elf. Zelda's dark eyes gleamed with curiosity, a small smile cracking her diamond-shaped face. Kaylee hooked her free arm into Zelda's, linking the three of them together. "Kaylin doesn't know what a tomboy is," she whispered conspiratorially to Zelda. Zelda pushed a long strand of black hair from her face, her eyebrow rising. "Are you serious?" Kaylin shrugged. "I'm assuming it has something to do with mud puddles and it being something the boys like. To me, boy or girl, everybody enjoys jumping in a mud puddle once in a while." A bright smile lit up Zelda's face. "You aren't wrong." She glanced around. Where's Andrella? I thought she was joining us tonight. She had to change her dress and slather her face in paint. Kaylin rolled her eyes. I don't know what was wrong with the dress she had on. Zelda laughed while Kaylee patted Kaylin's arm. We'll explain the fancy dress rules to you later. The trio walked arm in arm up to the inn. Rather than unlinking their arms, they walked sideways through the door. As soon as Kaylin stepped through the door, she felt a change in mood and atmosphere. The Dunwin Sky Knights, boo-hiss, were all drinking together, clustered at a table in the center of the room. The regular patrons were silent as the knights laughed loudly, chugging their drinks down as if they hadn't a care in the world. Kaylin spied Shala standing behind the bar, her brows knit and a frown engraved on her face. The young archer's eyes flickered back to the knights as she picked up some of their conversation. And he ordered that we shouldn't insult the elves serving Lady Gracelyn. And I was like, well, if calling them wayfarers is out of the question, what about calling them senior citizens since they live so long? Kaylin snorted as the men all laughed, but she quickly regained her composure and looked at Kaylee. Let's sit near the bar, Kaylee suggested, her normally cheerful smile bare and thin. The three girls quietly moved in Shala's direction, doing their best to ignore the ruckus going on. I don't know, I could never bear to touch one myself, much less think about kissing one. Like that one walking by there. I could stand for a little of that blondie, but that elf spawn makes my skin crawl. Don't see how anyone can make them, much less love 'em. Kaylin clenched her fists as she watched Zelda's jaw tighten. Well, why don't you ask that bird wench what it's like? One of the men turned and staggered a few steps forward, catching himself on a chair, sloshing his drink across a patron. He mumbled a weak apology, then glanced at Shala. Hey, bartender woman, what's it like to dance and sing with an elf all night long? Does he have any chest hair? His comrades laughed at the question. Shala narrowed her eyes, her frown sharpening into a glare. I don't know. Do you have any chest hair, boy? Judging by that rabbit's foot hanging under his nose, I'd guess he don't have much. Kaylin turned and leaned against the bar, crossing her arms and eyeing the knights darkly. Kaylee joined her on one side, propping her elbows on the bar, while Zelda stood on the other side, a drink in hand. The man glared back at his comrades when they chuckled at Shala and Kaylin's comebacks. I wouldn't expect a bunch of backwater harlots like you to know the difference between a twig man and a real man. You'd all marry dogs if you could and leave your spawn behind for the rest of us to feed, just like that. He pointed his drink at Zelda, sloshing the liquid across the floor. If you ask me, the Baron got what he bloody well deserved for treating the likes of you as equals. Kaylin pushed up to her feet, dropping her hands to her sides. Just so you know, the Baron died earlier in the book. Yeah. Several of the patrons stood to their feet as well, pushing their chairs out of the way. The other knights quickly followed their example. Shala walked around the bar and stood in front of the girls, feet spread and fists on her hips. You need to leave now. Kaylin moved to Shala's side, resting her hands on the back of the nearest chair while glaring at the man. Dunny, go home while you can still walk. He cast his gaze around the room, peering at the stern-faced patrons. You hear that, boys? He turned to his men. Looks like fine human company ain't appreciated around here. Maybe we ought to show these bloody elf-huggers a lesson. Oh, shut up, you slobbering goblin licker! Kaylin picked up the chair and crossed the space between them quickly. As he turned and locked eyes with her, she brought it down on his head. There was a satisfying crack and the chair splintered. The man weaved on his feet and went cross-eyed, then fell flat on his back. The other knights stared at him for a moment before looking up in unison. They stared in disbelief at Kaylin, who still held the back of the chair in her hands. Okay, which pansy blue hippogriff manure shoveler is next? She shouted. All at once the inn erupted into a flurry of action. The knights and Kaylin charged each other with angry shouts. The patrons charged the knights with curses. Fighting is stupid, you idiots! Zelda screamed just before she and Kaylee started throwing whatever they could get their hands around. Mugs and bottles were sent sailing through the air. Shala grabbed a leg of Kaylin's shattered chair and used it to thump anyone wearing powder blue Dunwin uniforms. Kaylin tossed a man over her shoulder, flopping him onto a table that gave way under his bulk. She jammed the back of her chair into the throats of two oncoming dunnies, then pushed one beside her. Then punched one beside her. Someone grabbed her braid and pulled on it. Kaylin twisted sideways and wrapped herself around a tall soldier, grappling him and sinking her teeth into his elbow. He howled and tried to pry her off, but slipped and fell to the floor, where Kaylin landed a solid punch to his jaw. Someone's foot haphazardly connected with the middle of Kaylin's face, sending her sprawling. Blood poured from her nose almost instantly. She rolled over to her hands and knees, struggling to her feet. A pair of strong arms wrapped around her middle and hoisted her into the air. "You'll pay for that chair move, you little Deepwood rat," she heard the rabble-rouser growl in her ear. She twisted in his arms, her elbow connecting solidly with the side of his head. The knight dropped her and clutched at his ear with a howl. Kaylin jammed her fist into his middle as hard as she could, making him buckle over. She jerked her knee up, smashing it into his forehead, sending him straight onto his back again. "Ha! You'll feel that Deepwood wrath pounding in your head tomorrow morning, you dunny dog!" Another pair of arms wrapped themselves around Kaylin, trapping her arms to the sides. She kicked her feet up, punching her boots into the chest of an oncoming soldier, at the same time making the one holding her stumble into a table. He couldn't regain his balance as Kaylin squirmed and kicked, and eventually fell to the floor. She jammed her elbow into his ribs, wiggling away from him, then grabbed a chair leg and hoisted it over her head, aiming for the middle of his back as he tried to crawl away. "I said enough!" The piercing cry was followed by a couple of red-hot rays lancing over their heads, hitting the ceiling with a hiss. Everyone froze and ducked in unison. I cannot speak tonight. Sorry about that. They turned to the door to find the Lady Angela fuming, hands in motion as she prepared another spell. "Sky Knights, return to your rooms now!" She waited until the soldiers had picked their drooling comrades up off the floor, before addressing the patrons. "The rest of you, go home. Zelda, Kaylee, and Kaylin, stay. I want to have a little talk with you." Kaylin looked at the chair leg in her hands, and quickly lowered it, slipping it behind her back. Once the inn was clear, Andrella sighed and lowered her hands. "Whew! What a mess!" She stepped over a broken chair and looked at the other girls. Her eyes widened when they came to Kaylin. "You're a mess!" Kaylin wiped her bloody nose on her sleeve, glanced around the room, then shrugged. "Sorry." She peered at Shala. "Really sorry. I'll clean it all up." Shala smiled, pushing back her messy hair and revealing a black eye. "No apology necessary. We'll clean it up later. Right now, drinks are on the house." "And when it's time to clean up, we'll all do it together," Kaylee said, hurrying around behind the bar to set out clean mugs. Kaylin stared at each girl in turn as they took seats at the bar. "Wait, aren't we in trouble? I would be if I were at home." She gazed at Andrella. "I thought you said you wanted to talk to us." Andrella shrugged with a grin. "Yeah, sure. What do we want to talk about tonight? Boys?" Everyone giggled. So, that's one scene out of Book 5, The Baron's Heart. Upcoming book that I'm so excited about. So if you've never read the books, then you're not familiar with these characters. So some of it may leave you at a loss. But hopefully this piques your interest enough that you'll go pick up the books if you haven't read them already. And if you have read the books, please share them with your friends and let everybody know about their awesomeness. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to come read this for yourself or read other excerpts from the book, there's quite a few more. You may see them scrolling here. Then just come to www.fpspirit.com and go to his blog right up here. and I'll be sure to put a link to that in the description below as well. Yeah, and then you can check it out there. You can also keep up with him or I on Twitter. I'll be sure to link those below as well, or on Facebook. We have author pages on Facebook. And yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And keep an eye out for the book. It's gonna be coming out really soon. I'm so excited. Yay!